各位晚上好。I'm come from Hong Kong. This is my first trip to USA. I wonder whether I have a second chance to come again. By the way, I was invited by Alan. He told me you must take a trip to USA to talk about the tribe of Docker to share to everyone. So this is my pleasure. I have to do that. Tonight we have half people. One is Chinese and half is regional people. So I want to speak in Cantonese tonight. Will you mind? 都曾經問我一個問題。
So a lot of people has asked me a question.
點解香港會有今次嘅罷工？同埋究竟需唔需要有今次嘅抗爭呢？
How could this strike happen in Hong Kong? Is this struggle necessary?
甚至無不論老師，不論外判工或者係 HID 嘅直接工人，好多人都問呢個同樣嘅問題。
Even the teachers, the contractors, even the workers that work for HIT ask the same question.
今晚咧我就想呢兩個問題咧同大家講一講啊。
And tonight I want to share with you how I feel about these two questions.
咁首先咧，我哋要清楚，即係要了解一樣嘢，就係話香港喺呢幾廿年嘅變化咧係好大嘅。
First, we have to understand that Hong Kong has gone through a lot of changes in these past decades.
佢已經咧係成為一個世界金融中心之一。
Hong Kong has become the world's one of the world's biggest financial center.
咁而且貨櫃嘅物流業咧係香港嘅其中一個經濟支柱。
And logistics is one of the biggest industries in Hong Kong.
咁而且咧，咁貨櫃碼頭裏邊咧 HIT 係佔咗成個貨櫃碼頭業咧，大概係70%。
And at the dock, HIT, this company, owns about 70% of all logistics business.
This mean 咩事？呢個意思即係話咧，佢每有10蚊喺貨櫃業裏邊咧 ，HIT 賺咗你7蚊啊！
That means for every $10 being made in the logistics industry, $7 go to HIT.
呢個係一個非常龐大嘅數字。
This is a huge percentage.
咁喺舊年咧，12年啦或者12至13啦佢總共嘅收益係56億。
So last year, in the year 2012 to 2013, can somebody help me? $500 million. 香港港幣係咪？
港幣。
$500 million were made. 560 million. Thank you.
Yeah. How much in USA?
How much in US dollar? 80 million? Yeah, 80 million US dollars.
但係咧，全部人工嘅開支咧，只係佔咗7%啫。
But the wages of the workers is only 7% of that number.
咁與此同時咧，嗰個 HID 嘅母公司啊，個母公司就係黃埔，佢係 HID 嘅母公司嚟㗎。
And at the same time, the mother company of HIT, it's called Hutchison Port.
咁全世界都知啦。咁李嘉誠就係呢個公司嘅大 boss。佢嘅事業不單止係貨櫃碼頭業，而且咧佢擁有全世界嘅貨櫃碼頭咧有50幾個咁多㗎。
So everyone knows Li Ka-shing. It's the big boss of Hutchison Port, and he actually owns like 50-something docks in the entire world.
喺將來咧，可能仲會一個喺接近加拿大有一個港口咧，而家喺度傾緊， 咁 Alan 係俾呢個消息我嘅。
And in the future, Alan has told me that he's also discussing buying another port in Canada.
咁同時咧，佢亦都喺香港咧。如果有人住喺香港，可能都應該知道啦。佢係差唔多係一個香港最大嘅地產商，同埋咧佢係經營呢個通訊事業啊，同埋呢個超級市場啊，咁啊，佢係一個好龐大嘅一個經濟集團。
So if you're from Hong Kong, you might know that not only does he do the logistics business, he is also the biggest real estate developer. He owns a lot of supermarkets. He has a lot of business in the telecommunications industries. So he himself represents a mega, business. He's a person of a lot of business and a lot of money.
雖然係咁樣，而工資咧只係佔呢個碼頭營運業一個小數目，咁由始至終咧，佢都唔肯主動每一年同我哋講一次加薪。
So even then, workers' wages still represent just a very tiny percentage of his business, right? And he would never initiate conversations about raising our wages.
咁呢個就係而家香港呢個經濟嘅背景。
So this is a little bit of the context of what's happening in Hong Kong.
係啦，咁其實喺呢40日裏邊嘅罷工咧，我哋總數人數咧約莫係500人，咁呢500人咧全部都係外判工。
So in this 40-day strike, there were about 500 workers that participated, and most of these workers are contractors. Subcontractors, sorry.
係啦，咁就主要都係兩個工種嘅人，一個就係機手，一個就係船上嘅工人。
Crane drivers and stevedore workers.
So most of the workers are grain drivers and stevedore workers.
咁同時咧喺呢40日罷工裏邊咧，我哋係得到香港社會全部嘅人士嘅認同。總數咧捐咗美金116萬嘅美金俾我哋作為我哋嘅罷工基金。
So this strike has gained popular support in the society. We've gotten donations of 1.16 million. I'm just going to put it that way. Of donation from the public.
所以係一個好強烈嘅對比，一個咁龐大嘅經濟集團，加少少都唔肯，而社會又會對我哋今次嘅罷工產生咗咁大嘅共鳴咧，呢個係香港歷史上係好少有嘅。
This is a striking comparison. Think about how this multi-billionaire would even pay us a tiny dime of his money to increase our wages, while the general public has donated so much money to support us. This is never seen before in Hong Kong.
好啦，咁我哋就講啦，跟住就呢個就係嗰個經濟環境嘅問題啦嚇。咁跟住就講我哋嗰個講少，即係時間有限啦，我就講少少嗰個罷工嘅起因。咁即係答覆第二個問題，點解有今次嘅罷工咧？係點樣形成咧？咁樣。
So I've given you a little bit of the context. Now I want to address the second question. Why do we have this struggle? What was the beginning of this strike?
咁我哋咧一定要追溯到去1995年。咁1995年呢個時間咧，可以話係今次大爆炸嘅起因點。
So I have to go back to the year 1995. That year could be said to be the beginning of this, this whole event.
Something like Big Bang of the universe. Big Bang 咁其實咧喺1995年到2001年呢段期間咧，我哋總數咧係俾佢減咗30%嘅人工。1995去到2011啦。
Yeah. So from 1995 to 2011, practically speaking, about 30% of our wages has gone down. Our wages have gone down for 30%.
如果大家仲有記性咧，香港經歷咗好唔好彩啊，有2次好大嘅外來嘅影響。一次就係 世紀嘅病毒啊，沙士影響咗我哋香港喺2003年。咁第二次咧就係金融海嘯，第二次嘅金融風暴啊，發生喺香港。
So if anyone has good memory, you might remember that Hong Kong has experienced two very unfortunate events during those times. So, for example, in 2003, Hong Kong was under the plague of SARS, and that really impacted the economy. And then we also went through the financial crisis. Yes, thank you.
Tsunami or crisis, also the same.
Bear with me.
咁當時咧，香港政府啊，就要求我哋提出一個要求，就叫我哋要共度時間。
So at that time, the Hong Kong government has made a request for us. They were like, well, this is a difficult time and we should all suffer the loss together.
咁當時咧，雖然我哋碼頭工人嘅知識水平唔係好高，所謂老粗，但係咧我哋都好明白當時香港經濟處境，所以我哋個個都拍心口 ，OK， 我哋共度時間。
So, for us dock workers, we're not very educated, but we understand that Hong Kong is going through a difficult time. So we're like, okay, fine, we'll suffer the losses together.
好啦，咁當災難過咗之後啦，咁啊經濟慢慢好轉啦，慢慢好轉。咁但係咧，佢居然係隻字不提。咁即係喺我哋工人裏邊有個好強烈感覺，你只係可以共患難，唔能夠共富貴。
So we suffer the losses, The difficult times has passed and the economy has come back slowly and slowly, right? They never mentioned pay raises or bringing the salary back to the level that it was, right? And to us workers, we feel like that we suffer the losses together, but we never share the prosperity.
Only share the pain, don't share the gain. 所以咧係好唔公平。咁所以咧我哋咁加上咧經濟好咗啦，啲船隻咧多咗啦。咁通常嚟講咧，我哋每個人咧就一日要做24小時嘅，先可以維持個生計。
So, so the economy, it's very unfair, right? So then the economy has gone better and there are more vessels that come into our ports. And typically speaking, each worker has to work a 24-hour shift, to be able to make a living.
咁因為船期咧好密啦，咁要求我哋咧有時要做48小時，有時甚至乎去到72小時先至俾你休息，即係正式俾你離開碼頭去休息。
So then, ships and vessels keep coming, and then they started to ask us to work for 48 hours, sometimes even 72 hours, before they let us leave the dock and get some rest.
咁所以咧，所有嘅碼頭工人咧喺忍無可忍嘅情況底下咧，當時係有100人開始同我哋嘅工會咧就商討，應該要係時候提出。要改善工資啦。
So at that time, the workers are like, I can't take this anymore. So about 100 workers started reaching out to the union and saying that we should demand a pay raise.
咁順便一提咧，就係我哋香港碼頭業工會咧，喺2005年成立嘅。咁當時我哋人數咧係好少啫，只係得20-30人。
So I also want to mention that our union started in 2005. Back then, we only had about 20 to 30 members.
咁咧，我喺嗰陣時咧係第一次學識一首工會歌，團結就是力量。
So during that time was when I learned the solidarity song, right? That was in Chinese. Yes. I'm not singing it, no.
This is the first song I learned from the union. 但係咧，我喺公餘嘅時間咧，我又同佢一齊做嘢，一齊生活，一齊食飯。我甚至冇咧同佢哋一齊上深圳咧，一齊咧傾偈。
So, outside of work, I pretty much live with my coworkers, right? I eat with them, I hang out with them. I even go to Shenzhen to hang out with them, to talk to them.
咁我希望咧，因為咁嘅情況底下咧，我希望佢哋咧得到佢哋嘅信任，得到佢哋嘅支持。
Because I really want to get my coworkers' support and their trust.
好啦，咁當時咧就提出咧一個好強烈嘅訴求，就係話我哋要整個碼頭貨櫃業要全面薪酬調整。
So back then, we made a very strong demand. We were saying that the entire dock, industry, we should have a salary adjustment for every single one.
咁同時咧，因為以往嘅經驗咧，話俾我聽咧，如果單打獨鬥，一個個判頭同公司傾咧，係好難得到成功嘅。
At the same time, my experience has told me that, if I fight alone and I go after each contractor one after another, it will be very hard for me to succeed.
咁所以我當時咧，除咗個訴求之外咧，我仲提出個口號，就係同一海洋上 on the same ocean。
So on top of that, we also come up with the slogan, on the same ocean.
係根據呢15年嘅經驗咧，係慘痛嘅經驗咧，係得翻嚟嘅。
This slogan comes from my very painful experience of organizing for the past 15 years.
咁所以咧，我哋咧就開始同公司發信啊，或者係派傳單啊咁樣嘅工作。
So we start sending out letters to the companies and we start flyering everywhere.
開始咧係得唔到任何嘅回應嘅。
At the beginning, there was no response.
咁後嚟咧，我哋用咗個方法，就係用短信啊，每一次短信咧係接近成500個嘅。
短信俾老闆？
唔係短信俾我哋啲工友。
Okay. So and then we changed our strategy. We started texting our coworkers. Every time we send out a text, it goes out to 500 people.
所以咧 ，HID 亦都收到，佢哋開始震驚啦，知道今次咧唔係玩啦。咁所以咧就馬上落咗個 order， 所有判頭馬上要搞掂。如果搞唔掂咧，你就唔好喺度做啦。
So HIT also received our text messages and they started freaking out, right? So they sent down the order of saying that, hey, you guys, figure it out and resolve this soon. Otherwise, you can go.
咁所以咧有一個判頭咧，其中有一個判頭咧，佢好醒目啊！咁嗱聲咧就應承加200蚊俾我哋。
So one of the contractors is very smart. He's like, okay, fine, I'll give an extra $200 for you. 200 Hong Kong dollars is about $30 US.
咁其實咧唔係加，係追翻1995年嗰陣時嘅水平啫。
Actually, there wasn't even an increase. That is just like going back chasing, beating out inflation from 1995.
好，咁及後去咗2013年啦。2013年嘅時候咧，其實同1995年嘅時候咧，都仲係相差10%嘅。咁仲有1995年到2013年咁多年嘅通脹咧，我哋一啲都冇同佢計嘅。咁所以應該係時候亦都同佢計。咁其實好平嘅啫，每年係2%嘅啫。咁所以我哋就提出咧加薪23%。
So in 2013, actually, when we look at our wages, we're still 10% lower than that of 1995, and that is not even putting into account inflation. So we're like, okay, we're going to be fair to you. We're going to do a 2% inflation increase for all the years that you haven't paid us any pay raise, right? So our demand was a 23% pay raise.
咁由於我哋2001年嘅時候咧，第一次成功咗啦，咁今次人多咗好多啦。今次有200幾人上嚟啦，咁咧同時咧，我哋就亦都開始發信俾其他所有嘅貨櫃公司。
So because we had a small victory in 2011, this time more workers come up to the union. We had about 200 people. And also at the same time, we started sending out letters to the other companies.
但係咧，好唔好彩咧，就 HIT 咧始終都係提出一個好低嘅回應，就係只係加薪5%，冇得傾。
So very unfortunately, HIT has made a very low counter offer of a 5% wage increase, right? And they're like, this is it, we're done, we're not negotiating.
咁所以咧，我哋工人咧覺得不能夠接受。
And the workers find this unacceptable.
咁嗰陣時咧，我哋就開始咧，我哋嗰個理事會啊，所有嘅理事會開始決定我哋要做啲嘢啦，開始。
So our committee decided that, okay, we need to do something.
咁最主要咧，我哋就曾經咧有2次嘅示威，咁一次咧就係喺 HIT 碼頭嗰個寫字樓嘅門口。
So we had 2 rallies or demonstrations. The first time it was at outside of the HIT office at the dock.
咁第二次咧就喺中環佢個母公司嘅總部嘅門口。
Second time it was in Central, outside the office of the mother company, Hutchison Port.
咁其實我當時我嘅心情咧，唔係想有咩要求，我只係要求佢出嚟同我哋對話，同我哋傾下如何解決呢個加薪嘅問題。
So, actually when I was at these rallies, I wasn't even thinking about any demands. All I wanted was to have a conversation, to talk face to face, to talk about our demand of raising wage increase.
咁但係都係冇咩回應。
But they didn't really have any response.
咁所以咧，我哋決定就有最後一擊。咁呢最後一擊咧就係我哋喺2013年3月28號開始嘅。
So we decided to use our final weapon, right? We started on March 28, 2013.
咁喺早上8點鐘咧，我哋有200幾人集結喺貨櫃碼頭嘅主要出口，就開始示威啦。
So at 8 o'clock in the morning, we have about 200 workers, and we gathered around the major corridor in the dock and started protesting.
但係等到9點半，都係冇人出嚟回應我哋。
So we waited, and it's 9:30, and no one came out to respond to us.
咁當時咧好多伙計就問我啦，阿陳，我哋應該點樣做？我哋應該做咩咁樣？
So then a lot of my coworkers came up to me, and they're like, Chen, what should we do? What should we do next now? What should we do?
咁所以咧就做咗一次我一生人好難嘅決定啦。
So I made the most difficult decision in my life.
我哋就轉身200幾人一齊衝入去碼頭。
We turned around, 200 of us. We rushed into the dock.
咁就開始咗我哋今次嘅抗爭。咁呢個就係話喺當時，假如你係我嘅時候，咁多次要求，佢都冇回應。俾我哋嗰個回答，亦都係冇情理嘅。咁所以，我喺嗰個時候係忍無可忍底下咧，我就要採取呢個行動嘅啫。
And that's how we started our struggle. If you were me, right, we have done so many different things and asked them so many times, and still they give us something, a counteroffer that is so unreasonable. I can't tolerate this anymore, and we have to struggle.
咁呢樣嘢正就係解釋咗點解會發生咗1997年回歸之後一個歷時最長嘅工潮。
And this is how the longest strike, started since 1997 when Hong Kong was turned over to China.
總算係有初步嘅成功。咁我希望今次嘅成功咧，只係碼頭工人嘅一小步，而係能夠為咗大家整個世界嘅工人嘅一大步。
So we had, a victory. I hope that this very small step of victory for the Hong Kong dock workers would mean a huge step forward for all of the workers around the world.
好，多謝各位。
Thank you. So Loy is going to talk about other stuff.
So I want to, ask 4 points about our strike. HKCTU is an independent trade union movement in Hong Kong. We have been established nearly 25 years. So I brought some, a brief booklet about our history here. Actually, we come from a Christian committee of workers. So very similar to South Korea and Taiwan. We both come from some Christian organization. So, during the strike, we have the model of the trade union movement in Hong Kong is so-called social movement unionism. What is it about? It is actually collaboration of social movement along with the trade union movement in Hong Kong. So before the strike, we have some student helpers, volunteers, some community organizers to help us to organize the strike. Yeah, and during the strike, the first bench of the supporters was come from the student union actually. They bring along their tents, they bring along their quilts and mats, so we can stay in the terminal and last for 40 days. And of course, some grassroots movement and community movement comrades. And the second point I want to pinpoint is that during the strike, every decision we make is through a democratic process. For example, we set up a strike committee along with our executive board committee. Okay, speak up. Louder?
Yes.
Okay. So we have our strike committee together with our executive board. So the strike committee will meet every morning and afternoon, and in the evening or even in the midnight, the strike representative or the negotiation committee member, they are not going to bed. They are going to talk with our workers. Yeah. So that's why we always said that strike is even more exhaustive than work. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So after the strike, some journalists have a very in-depth interview with the strikers, and some of my friends told me that they found the consciousness of workers are being largely raised after the strike. And the other point I want to raise is the exposure of exploitation in Hong Kong. Li Ka-shing is such a big business tycoon in the world, the richest Chinese people in the world, world number 8. So you can imagine, actually in Hong Kong we call it the city of Li Ka-shing, Li Ka-shing. Yeah. So so during the strike there is a television poll. Over 70% of Hong Kong people support collective bargaining rights. That is the rights we have get it for 2 weeks. For 2 weeks only. Why? Because before the handover, our legislator inside the council have successfully, tabled his private member's bill to the council and pass it. But right after the handover, the government appointed by Beijing, they firstly frozen the collective bargaining law, and 4 weeks later abolish it. So there is no genuine collective bargaining appear in that 2 weeks. You can imagine. So the change is enormous. The general public are aware of a mechanism that goes for a collective negotiation or collective bargaining that can settle disputes. Yeah. And the other thing I want to raise is about the court injunction order. Actually, we have 2 court injunctions during the strike. The first one is the 1st of April. Yeah. The first one is 1st of April. That injunction forced us to move out our picket line. So Chen said in the first day of the strike, we rushed into the terminal and we occupied. Yeah, and for a few days later, the court issued an injunction. So that is a very, hard decision to make whether we stay or not. And then we go for a negotiation, and then right before the midnight, we reach a decision that we have to move. Why? We are not chicken. We are not afraid. But our consideration is that if we don't honor the injunction, the police will come in. And then maybe hundreds of workers will be arrested. So the strike will be, smashed. So we go out to the gate and set up our strike camp there. And then 16 days later, there is nothing happened, no negotiation at all. And then we try to escalate our actions. So we moved to the central business area in Hong Kong. That is called Central Area, Central District. And then we set up our strike camp right in front of the luxurious tower of Li Ka-shing. Yeah. Chang Kong Center in Hong Kong. Yeah. And then another injunction order appeared. The order said that it is the private space. Actually, it is not. So one of the success of the strike is we're able to clarify what is private space in Hong Kong. That the judge is on our side, and he said that that is a public space. Public space is for citizens. That we have the right to demonstrate, to set up our camp, so our occupation continue. So there is two camps. One is outside the terminal gate. The other is right at the heart of Hong Kong capitalism. So that is the points I want to add. Yeah. Thank you. Actually, a lot of people from mainland visit us during the strike. Yeah. Somehow I have a feeling that our strike become a vehicle that people try to voice out their own demand. For example, as one Chinese scholar bring along the situation of Chinese labor, he got his flyers that right in front of that he leaves some flyers in our strike camp. So our strikers understand more about the Chinese workers' struggle. So I think in this prospect, I think we link together the Hong Kong workers and the Chinese workers. Yeah.
But I'm referring to the new left now.
The new left.
New left.
I think it's very difficult. The new left and the new right, or the traditional, communist or social democrat is, hard to say or somehow hard to identify. Of course, there is people writing article in the website. Of course, some people will very critical of our strike. Yeah, but I think Hong Kong is traditionally a playground for the big capitalists. So I think the impact on Hong Kong society is that people try to rethink the way how do we run our society. So I think the impact is important, whether we call it new left or new right or something like that. Of course, I myself is a genuine socialist, but so I think for the rank and file members and the general public in Hong Kong, the process is more important than the results right now. Yeah.
Before what I talk about the result of the strike, I want to answer this gentleman's questions. First of all, we have not such political purpose. Right or left, it doesn't matter. It determine our fighting determination. Whether our members, whether it's strong enough, angry enough to fight with them, is mainly main reason. about the result, 9.8, I always say 9.5, 9.8% is acceptable. I also thinking about this question. As the trial going on, about 36 or 37th day, some members or our workers told me the truth. It's very important. It must be true. He told me the worker cannot afford anymore. One, the housing mortgage. The other, the credit card payment, such like this, living pressure. So we must make decision with our Center Committee. We must thinking how to end this strike. Somebody about half cannot accept. We're still fighting again. But how about another 200, another 300? We must think as whole team. As I said before, all the benefits go to the workers. So we treat this as not a gambling. We must facing reality, facing the whole road. Go on together, go on. Otherwise, separate by separate, we will be falling down. The result will be worse than life on leg. By the way, it's very difficult to act in 1 year. We have another request in the coming year. By the way, our workers request one more thing is the agreement with subcontractor or the company. Before that, he treat our workers so much, so that under the pressure of Hong Kong government Labor Department for signature inside the agreement. This is also a symbol of the victory. In the past, only 3 were stay or out, no more. Only 3 were stay or out. You can't say anything about that. So that life on day is acceptable. And the other is it's a long strike already. And the other is the agreement. He signed it, agreed with us, the coming year will be wage rise. After that, in 6th of May, we have all committee, around 500, all the member coming, 500. Do you agree? Everybody accept that. So that this is the ending. We all is a good result. Actually, all the strike, the progress of the strike, every step we make, we also discuss with our representative. It's called committee. Normally, we have at least 2 meetings each day. Morning planning and afternoon planning. If emergency, we have light planning, such as we go to protest in front of government department, such as. So that in all the processions, I think is decided by all our members. So I think it's right. But the lesson is we still have any bargaining correction, especially from HIT. So I think the strike is still going on. It's still going on. Why? Because the subcontractor also controlled by who? The evil. The big evil. So then, I think it's satisfied for your question.
I think we are not very successful in organizing all the workers to involve in strike, actually. We are unable to, get more people and more people into our union before the strike. So before the strike, we only have nearly 300 members, but only 200 of them went to strike on the first day. So it seems that all out of suddenly more in the second day and the third day, more and more people went out. So totally we have, at the peak, we have 700 people on strike. But actually, it is only 10% of the total workforce in the terminal. So that's why the strike will last for 40 days. That is the reason why we last for 40 days. So I think, of course, up to ILWU standard, 10% strike, 10% members in strike is definitely unacceptable. But after the strike, we have to chase our targets. Yeah, although we have double our member, but we still have a long way to go. So I think the most important thing we trying to do is organize, and organize. Yeah.
You mean the worker market? You mean worker market? I think is not a big problem because all our casual workers is Hong Kong citizen. Even the period of 40 days strike, we only hire such as Pakistan to do the temporary work. But those men also have Hong Kong citizen identity card. So he can't get the temporary workers without the right ID card. So it isn't about the working markets. After that, the condition of our workers more improved. I sleep about 16 years. Why? Why sleep on the floor? Before that, if you work 24 hours, you must take a rest. Even the machine will be stopped for a while. So as a man, we must take a rest. 200 people get a building. And then who can sleep on the chair? The last is sleep on the floor only. Even inside in front of toilet. After the strike, especially support by the other country, such as ILWU, he far away come from Hong Kong, from US come from Hong Kong, to the strike side to support us. Holland and Australia come to terminal site to support us. And all around the world, the message booming to HIT. So after the strike, he went away, all the restroom have a bunk bed, 2 layers. Have 2 layers to rest. Also the bathroom. Now we have hot water, cool water. Before that, only cool water. Before, in winter, you must take some warm up to go in the bathroom. In the hot summer, he put many water supply in many places for us to use. The crane driver, before the strike, he must do everything. You mean what? Do everything in the crane, in the driver room, eating or something. So after that, he can request at dinner time. 15 to 30 minutes to have a meal break. This big improve. But I think it's service. Only service went away. Service improved. Nowadays, he still make any bargaining with our union. So that is our future goal of our union.
Is there any connection with Chinese workers? Yes, we have, because we can pass the border freely. So, of course, some dockers do train the Chinese dockers in the 90s. Yeah. So actually, there is a linkage between Hong Kong dockers and the Chinese dockers. And then you guess something very interesting is that after the strike, the dockers in Shenzhen, that is the nearest port and the second largest port in the world, go to strike. Guess how much they got? They got 30% pay rise. 30%. 30.
Better than Hong Kong so much.
Yeah. And then, right after Shenzhen, the west side of the city in Shenzhen, Shehou, they went to strike too. And then they cut their pay rise. And then after Shehou, it's Zhongshan.
It's
Zhongshan.
city. That's all the city.
Yeah,
City.
all around the Pearl River Delta. And the most important thing is that all this terminal belongs to Li Ka-shing.
One thing very especially, the same CEO also.
Yeah, about Taiwan, HKCTU, last week we issued an official statement on the Taiwan struggle that the students occupy the Legislative Council of Taiwan. And then we support the students because we also suffer from the bad outcomes of free trade between Hong Kong and China. So I think in this sense, some students from Hong Kong actually go to Taiwan. Some of them are involved in the occupation movement in Taiwan, and some of them are being beaten by the rail police. Yeah. So officially, we support the struggle of Taiwanese students.
What's our going on to do? Here is educate public. According our worker low knowledge standard, they only concern their life, their wages most. None are business. So their social concept very, very low. If the strike is going on, we must support by the society, by the students, by the other countries, so that we must add more angle educated to my workers. Otherwise, only the wages cannot do any more. We must take more issue with the society. So the worker movement, student movement, society movement, I think is a connect to one body. So we have stronger strength. So the educated is my goal also. What's our going on to do? Here is educate public. According our worker low knowledge standard, they only concern their life, their wages most. None are business. So their social concept very, very low. If the strike is going on, we must support by the society, by the students, by the other countries, so that we must add more angle educated to my workers. Otherwise, only the wages cannot do any more. We must take more issue with the society. So the worker movement, student movement, society movement, I think is a connect to one body. So we have stronger strength. So the educated is my goal also.
Answer your question. I also organize truck drivers in Hong Kong. So, under CTU, we have two unions: Union of Hong Kong Dockers and a Container Truck Drivers Union. And then after the strike, we make a decision that we try to redefine the jurisdiction. That all pork drivers will under Union of Hong Kong Dockers, and other truck drivers will belong to the Container Truck Drivers Union. Actually, the Container Truck Driver Unions expand their scope to the Logistics Industry Employees Union. So we try to organize more and more workers from different occupations. Of course, inside one door, even though you are steel door workers, crane drivers, or truck drivers, should be inside one union. So we make this decision in Hong Kong. Yeah.
We have just a few minutes left. We have one
party in China. So I think we overseas Chinese are very familiar with the democratic movement in China. So somebody want to organize their new party in China will be sent out to other countries. So but in Hong Kong, yeah. 2 years ago, HKCTU is one of the founding members of Labour Party in Hong Kong. So I think the platform, or I'm the one of the writer of the platforms of the Labour Party, and I think Labour Party somehow is the newly established party, and we have 4 seats in our legislative council. So it become our political wing of trade union movement, and the HKCTU will concentrate in workplace organization. So the function of the labor movement, one is workplace organizing, the other way is political. So you may wonder why we form a political party, because we believe that at the end of the day, the struggle of the economic rights have to be raised up to a political level. Unless you won't see the change of the society. Yes, that is our way of thinking. Yes.
Yes, so
I think ILWU, compared with our unions, is quite a well-established union. They have a hiring hall system that we want to have a hiring hall system in Hong Kong also. Past few days we have some meeting with the locals, but it is very difficult to give any ideas or guiding principles to the ILWU rank and file members. But I think we share our experience, and then we respect their decision. Of course, I think, not to mention ILWU, but I think every union, every organization have to go for a democratic process, that every rank and file members, every single members will have their voice, will have their rights to voice out their ideas. So I think, yeah, I hope I answer your question.
The British money and the American money, okay? And so those banks, you have HSBC, we have HSBC in San Francisco and all over New York, okay? But now I think that the Guangzhou there is a collective bargaining training in the Guangzhou Trade Union. Okay, at least something, to start. So yeah, I think it's important that Guangzhou and the Yangpeng, Yachai, Guangdonghua, okay? So last but not least, rich people love to give the money and put their name on the building. So Li Ka-shing has a beautiful building in every university, right? And before Canada, okay? So I can't think of the Berkeley, but Stanford, so easy to get some attention at Stanford. If this many people go to the Li Ka-shing, okay? Li Ka-shing Center for Excellence at Stanford. But no, I think you have to think it through. You have to think the whole thing through, because you must educate people about the globalization, right? Where the ports are. You must think about the workers, the actual welfare, okay? But the closest that Li Ka-shing is to us is at Stanford campus. If people want to talk it through, whether because I think it's very easy to embarrass him. Huh? But it's not necessarily the right thing to do. You just have to think about it.
As myself, as my workers, and as member, no hate between Li Ka-shing. I don't know who. I can make a decision. I will never see. I never with Li Ka-shing, talk with Li Ka-shing, even my lifetime. So, in Chinese, 我哋同佢冇仇怨。
So I have no antagonism towards Li Ka-shing.
So we not only point to one rich man. It represent whole rich man or 一個有錢階層咁樣。
Yeah, this is the rich class or capitalist
Rich
class.
class. 所以我before I take a slogan, revise the wages, also said, no hate between any person. I only, every benefit go to my worker. Otherwise, I won't do their chairman. This is my goal. 冇私人仇怨。
No personal antagonism.
Yeah，冇仇富嘅心態。
We don't hate the rich personally.
Yeah，冇仇富。咁點解 ？That's why we have this right. Is so confident, yes. Because depend what he done for the workers, what he treat our workers. Just a little money, he won't take from the pocket. He only take inside the pocket. That's why we have this right. Maybe explain this question.
Okay, thank you.